Just be present. Be
I
present.
just started the recording, but I'll do a formal
I
introduction.
can't get the got it, honey. You want to hit that for me?
Which
Got it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I can't hit the got it. What is
Okay,
got it?
We got
Oh,
it.
that's because you have to do another
Yeah.
ditty.
Okay.
Always another ditty.
Oh, I love it. Well, these were wonderful questions, but I haven't had a chance to look at them this morning. But they should be in my soul, and rather than on the paper.
Yeah. It's just kind of making sure, you don't want to be like, what should we talk about? So just to guide the conversation.
Exactly.
I'll go ahead and start us. Welcome, everyone. It's Chicava, Interim Programs Director at Cumbe Dance, continuing our conversation around Catherine Dunham and her legacy. And today is a very special day for me. I get to sit down with my teacher, my mentor, and the most glamorous person that has ever lived in Denver, Colorado, Miss Cleo Parker Robinson.
Wow.
Hi, Mama Cleo.
So good to see you and be with you, even if it's virtual. Even big hug.
I feel hugged. I feel so hugged. And this was going to be a little personal, y'all, because I just getting a chance to study more Dunham and knowing that, when I was just this little 12, 13, 14-year-old dancer, my story is similar to Rochelle studying in Haiti with Miss Sevilla. Like, this is getting put into you and you didn't know the words for it, but then I always knew I needed it. I keep getting drawn to it.
And Rochelle, oh honey, how wonderful. Just this wonderful Dunham family all over the world. It's magical.
It's really magical. And what we've been up to at Cumbe is just creating a home for this multifaceted community. And it's a beautiful thing because it's this place to me with Dunham where if as we get adult recreational movers into it, they more understand how much it's really like setting your body up for strength and structure lifelong. And so you're ready to go to Haitian class or West Guinea class, like this basic vernacular in you, and bridging that gap between what concert dancers do and how we can have that in our lives.
Absolutely. It really, what I love about being in Miss Dunham's classes is that you had everyone from all over, every age, every size, and it was just that sense of oneness really took place. Because it wasn't about the children's class or the teens class or the men's class or the women's class. She covered the human experience. And it was just phenomenal. Absolutely.
So let's go back to the beginning of you. This is my favorite question to ask everybody. When did you fall in love with dance? When did you know this was the thing?
Well, I don't know when I knew. I think, when you grow up in the womb, dancing, moving, and I think we all do, but I think that consciousness of really knowing that you're a mover, that you love to move, really happened really, really young. I think everyone saw me as a dancer. I never saw myself. I just danced. And there wasn't this dancer. It was the dance. I grew up in the Rawsonia Hotel, which was the only Black hotel in Denver. And it's only 2 blocks from my studio. So when I pass it, I have this wonderful memory of being born, really right home from the hospital by one of the baddest bass players in the world. He played for Billie Holiday. So Billie Holiday played there, and Duke Ellington and Count Basie. So I grew up in that rhythm. I was born into that rhythm. And I would go downstairs and jam, sit in. And so I grew up in it. So I think, everybody would go, she's going to be a dancer. She's going to be a dancer. My daddy she's going to be a doctor. She's going to make some money. She's going to be somebody. That dancer part was never something to be, you just were. So I just
So for you,
always
it was just
knew I loved it. I loved it. But maybe not until later in life, after I'd lived in Dallas from about 10 to 12, that I became mute. And then I began to dance to express myself. Then I knew dance was sort of something that I had to do. It was something that was necessary. It was essential in my being. So it was pretty phenomenal how dance came about in my life, you know. But my daddy was my dance teacher, and mama was my best audience. So, you know, he would do some jitterbug with me, or he'd do the calypso or whatever. You know, that's how we danced all through the house, cleaning up the house and putting on that music, and we'd hit it. That's the way it was.
wow. That's amazing to know that. And then how did you come into the Dunham fold? When did you start studying with Miss
Well,
D?
I always knew about Catherine Dunham. I mean, from childhood, you know, I mean, I think anybody who grew up finally watching television and seeing the first Black dance company we'd ever see on television, that's when we were aware of this extraordinary woman and her beauty and talent and all of the Dunham dancers. So it was the Dunham dancers. It wasn't just Miss Dunham at that particular time. So my father became the first Black actor in Denver. And so he was always talking about Harry Belafonte, always talking about Sidney Poitier, always talking, you know, so that there wasn't any time that we weren't, and I was the first child of 4, and then we had more children, but, you know, I was the oldest, so I got that kind of infusion of that, this extraordinary woman. She was, you know, but later, I think studying about her, not until I was going to college, really, I hadn't met her until I was 19. 19, I went to New York and then began to take Dunham classes at 19. I'm 74 now, and I just look back and say, how fortunate was that? You know, it was just unbelievable. So, you know, I began to hear more and more about her from 19 on in a different way, rather than this iconic legend, stormy weather, you know, beauty queen of the movies and so on. But she was extraordinary, you know. But I would hear about the Dunham classes. And, you know, I had already taken classes, ballet and everything. I mean, you know, I'd taken classes, but there was nothing that felt so good to my body. It wasn't even my body, it was the spirit that takes place in class, period. It became a communal experience like I'd never had before.
Wow.
Something else, yeah. So
yes.
I started my company at 21. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, so 19, I was inspired. 21, I was ready. At least I thought I was.
There's no ready, right?
I'm forever getting ready. I want you to know that.
Yes. So yeah, you're celebrating 50 years.
52.
52. Oh, right. 1970. I was thinking
70. Yeah. We started in 1970. And it was just amazing. Wonderful.
It jumps me down to another question, because you've made this tremendous journey that very, very few people make, no matter their artistic discipline. You're an upstart company in 1970, but now you are a cultural institution. You are the Diamond of Denver. I know you can't tell it all, but what advice, what's the wisdom that you could share with somebody who might be crazy enough to endeavor to do the impossible that you live?
Well, you know, one of the things Miss Dunham would always say is nothing's impossible, nothing. And she would always push you to the limit. And you think, now that I can't do that. And there was never a can't in her vocabulary. There was never a can't. So I think that would be the advice that I'd give young people is, you know, I used to hear this term with some of my younger dancers who are brilliant and have done some amazing things. But when I would say, you know, blah, 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 we need to do so and so. And then one of them would say, I'm done. And I'd be like, you can't be done because you barely started. You can't be done. I'm done. So what we say is we manifest it. So we have to be very careful about what we say, because we're forever conditioning ourselves. And what we hear, what we surround ourselves with, what we hear is another conditioning. So you have to do two things. I think you have to surround yourself with people who respect you and share your dream. And they don't always have to agree, because sometimes that's your challenge. And then you have to be courageous. You have to be courageous to follow your dream, because there'll be many people who can't see it like you do and will say, I don't think that works. I don't, you know, when I was growing up and had my company, for me to be a woman, a Black woman, a woman of color in Denver, and young and married, and then having a child at 23, they would say, you cannot do all that. You can't, either you have to make a choice. You either have to have a family, or you, in those days, you know, you have to have a family or you have to have a career. And I'm thinking, are you crazy? I was like, there was no way I could do my career without my family. And there was no way I was just going to be family, because I had to contribute to my family. And I think that's the other thing that I'd say to young people is, your family will bring to you, but what are you bringing to your family? I think that's very important, that you know
And
that that's that ancestry that they have to understand. They're a part of something much larger than what they can see.
yes, and that artists deserve a full spectrum life. Like we will sacrifice. That's inherent in pursuing
Absolutely.
something,
Oh,
but
absolutely.
we shouldn't be told, like, the days are gone where we're told you have to sacrifice this kind of life or that kind of life. And I imagine, and we all send you great love on the tremendous partnership and romance you shared with Mr. Tom.
Mm.
I imagine
Oh,
that partnership is such a huge part of what made it all possible.
oh, absolutely. I think I was on a retreat in Vail where I walked down the street and thought about when I made this film with Gordon Parks, and it took us 10 years to make a film. But as I was walking down in Vail, I thought about how I was filming with Gordon, but that Tom was always there. And Tom was always like my cheerleader, like, Cleo, you know, if Gordon wants to compose something for you, then go to New York and work with him. And I'm going, what? The great Gordon Parks? Are you kidding? And he would be like, we're all here to create. And he wasn't an artist, but he was such a champion. So I can hear him, you know, I can hear him. And I just know that I was so blessed to have him. But when I finished being in Bill, I thought, I created this company, but it was always with Tom. It was never without him. So to continue creating is almost like, I don't know that I can do that. And then I hear Miss Dunham says, oh, you can do it. You can do it. You have to do it. Not about you can do it. You must do it. So there's another kind of affirmation that comes from the universe that really helps me to know that I have to get up and I have to do it. But that feeling that I never did it without him. I mean, I met him at 12. At 12, I met Tom at 12. So we didn't get married till I was 21, but it was those 60 some odd years. So anyway, thank you. He was pretty amazing. He was really.
And I'm sure he's just right over here.
Right.
Yes. Hanging out.
Yes.
Refereeing and cheerleading.
Oh, honey, he was. But what I hear him saying is that I hear him now saying, this interview is not about me. I can hear him say, wait a minute, this is not about me. He was so modest. He was really modest. And I mean, he could officiate any ball game. Like I would go with him, and I loved being the wife at that time, where I didn't have to run my company and be wherever we were and take care of dancers and get people on planes and trains and hotels and all that. I didn't have to do that with him. He was in charge. I was like, I like him being in charge, because I didn't know, you know. But when I was with my company, he made sure I was in charge. And
That's so beautiful.
Those men have not learned how to do that, and he didn't have a role model to do that. It was who he was, but he was a great role model for Malik, who is our executive director, our son. So I see that in him, and I get so tickled. I go, yeah, he knows how to do that.
I love that. And as a woman, I hear this space where you're like, I can be this strong. I can use my strong young energy and run my empire. And then my man is macho, and I get to just chill in my yin.
Absolutely, honey, absolutely.
We need that. That's how we like keep our equilibrium. Okay. Family lesson. Back to dance. So Cleo Parker Robinson dance, and you are the keepers of Miss Dunham's choreographic legacy. Is this a decision Miss Dunham made, or you and Maria Christine? This is huge.
Wow. Yeah. You know, it's something that evolved in many different ways on many different levels. And we'll have to do a interview and another one to cover the levels of, I think, I don't know, there's a destiny sort of feeling in there that I needed, as I grew up, I needed to see myself, as every young person does. They have to see themselves in a way that's much larger than themselves, so that they feel it's possible. And when I saw Miss Dunham, I knew immediately that whoever she is, that's the ticket right there. That's who that, I mean, I see myself in her. She was just extraordinary. Now, she wasn't necessarily really easy. She wasn't easy to get near. And she had many dancers and many other people around her that made sure that you keep your distance, you know. So I didn't have this goal, neither did she, that the company would be the one to carry on her legacy as a professional company. But I think my desire was to see her in her latter part of her days, for her to feel absolutely wonderful and whole. And I wanted the world, of my world, to know who she was and to know how extraordinary she was as a woman, as a mother, as a wife, she was an anthropologist, she was a writer, she was a painter, she was a choreographer, she was a dancer, she was a humanitarian. She was larger than life. She was a healer. She was a voodoo priestess. She was many, many, many things. And I wanted to discover all of that, all of that. So when I went to college, I went there at first thinking I got a National Science Foundation scholarship, not a dance or arts. So I went there as someone who was exploring psychology or medicine. So I would take pre-med classes and all of those things. But the more my teacher, who was the one who really introduced me to her, Rita Berger, she was with the Met. She had danced with George Balanchine, and she was Jewish and a New Yorker. I mean, somebody who says, you know, everything didn't happen in New York. So she had another idea about dance, education, healing, all of that. And I became her protege, Rita Berger. She said, Cleo, you know, if you want to be a dance therapist, that's wonderful. But she said, I think that you should go to New York at Alvin Ailey's. and really see what Catherine Dunham and Pearl Primus and so on, what they're doing. And so I think that once I knew the magnitude of her life in a very small way. I mean, I didn't grow up with her other than through my parents.
Being visual,
yeah. But once I was with her, I began to work with Coors, and I wanted to raise a consciousness and raise the dollars for her. I wanted to raise money because it wasn't enough just to love her. It was, we had to do something. We had to change things. And she was in East St. Louis. And that's shocking for people that she chose East St. Louis. She chose Haiti, some of the poorest places in the world and in the country. And she chose to be there. And that's what was beautiful for me, because I chose to stay in Denver. And Denver is nothing like East St. Louis or Haiti, but I worked with gangs. I worked with many different gangs. And I worked in psychology. I tried to understand what is it that we can do that can shift our society? What can we do? And I began to understand the power of dance through the Dunham technique. And I think Ms. Dunham understood that's where I was coming from. And the more she understood my vision, was very, very aligned with her vision, then she was all in with me. She was in with, every time I would talk to her, we talked for hours. And after she tried to kill us in class, I was like, oh my God, oh Lord. But she was really something. She's so brilliant. And I would talk to her about the things I was doing with gang members. While I was running my company, I was...
Right, because she did a lot of helping gang members and protecting their safety in St. Louis, just very integrated in the community.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I began to tell the gang members I had a gang. I said, I got a gang of dancers. So, I mean, you know, when you understand, we will have labels, and then you understand why does a young person want to align with something like that could really in their lives. But we began to realize that they needed, they wanted to take risks, they wanted to be challenged, they wanted to belong. And I began to really understand that. And so the dance really brought them together in a very different way, and also challenged them and introduced them to another way of using their minds and bodies and spirits and so on. It was marvelous. So there were many different things. I would look at her works. She would talk to me about what work she thought worked for my company once she saw my company. And it wasn't that Miss Dunham just saw my company. Martha Christine, Tommy Gomez, Vanoy, and then the older ones, Joe Nash, Walter Nix, Lucille Ellis. I knew it was a village that I knew I was building as well. And that village, there were people who had been, like Julia Belafonte, committed to her for over, I don't know, 50 years. And I was interested in that. That's what I was interested in. And I think she understood that my interest was greater than I would like a dance piece for my company.
Right.
I was interested in the way of life. Dance is a way of life. And that's what she would say. Yeah.
Yes. And coupled with being a woman who went ahead and started a company, because it's a lot to put down those roots and then really figure out and not be verified, even though we know Denver is like inherently a very kind of down to earth tumbleweed, could go by at any minute. Down.
Stereotypes, you know, they you know, either you got cowboys up in there or you go, I never had any cowboy boots or a cowboy hat, and I was born here. I mean, although my father was involved, I mean, my father was like a black cowboy. I mean, he came from the South, Texarkana, Arkansas, moved to Denver. And so this idea of the West was very exciting, you know, and most people don't know about the Mexican or the Black or even native people who really trained horses and had ranches and They knew very little about that. But you know, kind of pioneer spirit is what.
Pioneer spirit. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
what the Black, brown, native Colorado, it's a gorgeous and rich history that
Mhm.
I love exploring. Because isn't the studio too far? Do we still have the Black Cowboy Museum?
Yes.
Yeah, you're
It's
not
right
far
on the
away.
corner.
Yeah.
Yes. It's just,
Yeah.
yes. And they've
Yeah.
been fighting, struggling to stay alive. And I remember taking Arthur Mitchell there one time when he was working on a Black Cowboy piece. And I said, well, Arthur, listen, Mr. Mitchell, we have the baddest Black museum of the West anywhere in the country. He said, what? He didn't believe it. I said, yeah. And I took him there and he loved it. And he did his research there. But Miss Dunham loved Denver. She loved Denver. And we loved her. But one time I remember I would bring her from Haiti a number of times. And one time I brought her, and the mayor, I think, met her at the airport and decided he was going to bring her to his office. And we didn't know, you know, I was like, wait a minute. Where is Miss Dunham? I mean, we were really worried that, and the mayor's office had picked her up, taken her to the office because he was so excited she was in Denver, you know, I mean, absolutely. But anyway, we have so many stories. We got lots of stories.
So
But
many.
she began
stories.
to choreograph and teach and work with my company after I had been in East St. Louis. I was working with Coors, and Coors asked me what my dream was, and I said to see how we can really support Miss Dunham. That was it.
Mm-hmm.
That was it. And so then we began to meet with different communities in Chicago, and I worked with Effie Berry, the Mayor Berry's wife, and she was very connected to who Miss Dunham was. So we met with some wonderful people. We met with Harry Belafonte, you know, Danny Glover, and then we did a fundraiser in New York. So that was one of those things. I was working with the National Endowment at that time, and I was always talking about Miss Dunham is doing things that people cannot even imagine because she doesn't have the resources, and yet she's there working like mad, you know, with teachers who coming. I mean, they were dedicated to her, you know, like Tally Beatty, who was in her company, and it was phenomenal. And musicians that would come from all over the world, and when they would sit and play for her, it was unbelievable because they'd be from all over. I mean, Senegal, of course. Mocham was the young drummer that she brought in when he was very young. From Cham. Cham was from Senegal. He was her master drummer, and he would sort of train the other drummers to know exactly how Miss Dunham wanted those drums played. And it was magical. It was wonderful. And then
the specificity continues. Like we're doing at Cumbe, we do a performance workshop called Dance for Joy. So it's sliding scale, and there's a recital at the end, and it's 10 weeks. And so this time we have about to be graduated Dunham candidate, Candace Franklin, is doing one.
Wonderful.
Yes, she brings it. For her, she said she wanted to understand. She knew that there was Black behind all that fabulous theatrical Broadway jazz she loves.
Right.
And she had to find her way back. So it's really cool departure because we have a terrific drummer for him, one of our lead drummers at Cumbe, Fitzgerald, and he had to learn the Dunham rhythm so he could be in the class. But then it moves from that technique and those African rhythms into that lyrical jazz. It's
Yes.
really
I'd
special
love to
work.
see the class. I have to get there. And bravo. You know, I think people have no idea the kind of impact Miss Dunham had on the world dance, global dance, because she was always open and receiving and integrating, and from Haiti to Jamaica to all of those. I mean, the Caribbean itself, but she was something else. She was really, she would take an idea and really build it. I remember when we hosted her in 1990 for the International Association of Blacks in Dance. That was the first time we were able to bring her from Haiti for the whole dance community. And it was unbelievable. We were in the hotel room and she was rehearsing Lagia, her solo. And I was filming because I wanted it to be captured, and it became a documentary. It was phenomenal because she had been working with Tom so much that to find the rhythm come all the way through the spine and through all the chakras was just like, whoa. And then to watch it become a physical reality inside of April Berry was unbelievable. And then the next day to do the performance and then do the class in our studio, people were, they were absolutely inspired, but also there were many that just would fall out, and just, it was more than you'd have to be there.
You had to be there.
I had to have been there. And people who were there talk about that moment so many times because it was beyond anything they'd ever experienced in their lives. And
transcendental.
Yeah, it was transforming. It was really something. And April Berry talks about it all the time. April talks about it. And, I saw her many years with Alvin Ailey, but when Alvin did The Magic of Catherine Dunham, I was able to watch her work then. But that's not when she was able to discover what Miss Dunham was doing. But she would use many times those roles because one time in class I was working, I was in a class with Theo. She put Theo Jameson and myself together. And then later, Jamal, I have to tell about my beautiful dancer, Jamal Barnes. But she would put Theo together and we would improvise. And it was around Lagia that she would do that. And I would just give everything I had. And I thought, and now that's it. I've given you everything. And then she'd say, I'd like to see that again. You'd like to see it again? There is no again inside my entire body. So I thought, surely she didn't ask to see it again. And I looked at Theo, and Theo was like, here we go again. And so she then began to say, I would like for you and Theo to work together for the next 3 months. And I looked at Miss Dunham like, what it takes for me to be here for a week. She had no idea what I'd have to do with the company and the.
I'm sure she did.
And then I thought she had
she only wants you to do it one more time, 10 times. So I'm sure she knows.
Right. It was so wild. Yeah. So I think she doesn't know what I have to do. And then she came to Denver and many times. And she would tell the audience, she said, what Cleo is doing here is magnificent, but I think she really needs a university. I say, a university. And then we partnered with the university. So we give a degree now. And I think that she is responsible for that, planting those seeds where you think, obviously I can't do one more thing. And this community can't do, we're limited, but there was no limitation in her mind. It was really wonderful.
So there is a Bachelor of Arts in Dance in your technique?
And what we do, and my whole school, yeah. So you can go to Metropolitan State University and get a degree through us, a BA, and it's just terrific. And that's something. So we've had several classes graduate. But that was when Miss Dunham came and said, I think this is wonderful. It's extraordinary, but I think that there's more. I think she needs a university. So I said, okay, Miss Dunham, it was wild. Mm-hmm. But she was that visionary and that supportive, she really was. And when she came to audition my dancers to do her work, she brought Julie Belafonte for Charles. And that was one of the most difficult ballets we've ever done. And we just did 2 sections of a work that was 5 sections. And when the dancers did the 2 sections, they went, there's no way in the world they could have done 5, because the stamina that those dancers must have had was unbelievable. But that's what the technique did. It created a strength, not only in your body, but in your mind. And I think that's what dancers are missing today.
I have a terrific visit with Warrington Hudlin that I've actually been saving until our visit is ready. And, he is in Tai Chi. He actually spearheads World Tai Chi Day here in New York. So we were, yeah, it's really cool. We were going into how, and I practiced too, and we were just really talking about how much the martial arts approach is in Dunham technique, not in martial arts and that 5-element Taoism approach. It's all in there. There's so much. There's just so much in this technique.
From all of those, she drew from all of that. I think even when she was studying how to discover the chakras and the power in each chakra. I mean, she would use the martial arts in all of those amazing forms.
He had a great story where after his second martial arts class, she made him teach everybody in his dance class everything he learned. He said, I only been to 2 classes. And she's like, that's 2 more than everybody you know. So
that is funny. Oh yeah. Now is he one of the Hudlin brothers of the
exactly
filmmakers? Because I worked with them in Brazil.
Oh, and he was actually acted as her fiscal sponsor, if you will, for taking care of her in her later years, where Miss Belafonte had her up at the atrium. Yes. Yes. So he was instrumental in so many, she built a village, and that village carried us, and we carried her in a way.
Absolutely.
So
people loved her. And I think that was important when we had her ceremony in New York, her last homegoing ceremony. That was really something. And we were there at the home of the ambassador from Haiti, and she brought us together in the world in a way that it just stuck, just like good soul food, it just stuck. And so I think when she made her transition and left us, I mean, I was like, how are we going to do this without her? How are we going to do this? How will we keep these things going? And yet, bravo, you are doing it. And many are doing it. And not enough. There's still many dancers who don't know anything about her legacy and her work. And
yet they do isolations every time they go to a dance class.
Right.
She's why.
Yeah, exactly. Doing all of those, absolutely.
Yeah. I think, we're all just doing our part. And I'm committed to showing adult movers that, like, I want you to get the value of this and being a resource for the professionals.
Yes.
I want that too, because there's really, I realized as we're starting to look at the first of the year that you do literally have to come to Brooklyn to take a Dunham class in person. So maybe I'm going to get us a little outpost. So catch those folks that work in the city or the professional dancers that can never quite get to it to try it. See that, just keep making it available and explaining. There's a lot, it's a very, because it is darn near a martial arts discipline.
Yeah.
Where it's like, and it's like Alvin Ailey, it's like, oh, here's a poster. I know what that means. Like this, it's like, it's an experiential thing. You have to get to the meaning.
Exactly. And it unifies you with others, but it unifies you with your entire, everything that you are, everything, your entire being. And it's empowering. I got to see Miss Dunham. I think we were in New York. And Lucille Ellis had just had a stroke. And she was backstage on stage left. And Miss Dunham, Lucille had not spoken to anyone. I mean, she couldn't speak. And Miss Dunham came over on the side as we were talking to the audience. And then she came on to the side and she began to tell Lucille what she needed to do. And the connection that they had was student and teacher and student, that that was one. There's no master teacher. The master teacher is within. And we're always looking for that guru for us. And she was always like, that is within you. And all you have to do is take time to bring it out. And I think that's what I saw with her, with many, with young, older people who were dancers, people who were not dancers. She had a great effect on my son, on Malik. I think the clarity that he has when he is guiding our capital campaign right now to get a new building, because we've been in the shorter AME church for 35 years of the 52. And this church we've been working with, I tell you, it was the first Black church ever built. But now we're really knowing that we've expanded and we need to bring the state-of-the-art facility to dancers and artists and children, and be a destination. So we're very close to kicking off this wonderful campaign that we've been working on for a number of years. I would go and talk to Miss Dunham about the building, and she would always say, don't worry, you'll have it. Don't worry. I mean, she would always make sure that you weren't worrying about the things that you wanted to do. You just kept being patient and just chip at it, just like you do each part of your body, finding out how to isolate that particular thing, focus on it, and it'll get done.
Yeah, two big things I've picked up is your will creates the resources. When she was taught, you're like, how am I gonna, it shores up. I lost the other one at the moment, but it'll pop back in. So tell me about, was Barrel House Blues the first so Jamal was your second dance partner. And I know that you did everybody loves that one. It's so, it's sexy.
She was sexy. She was sexy. Oh, she would even teach in the wheelchair, and she'd just do something kind of like, it would be like, oh, she was bad, because we didn't have we saw films, but we weren't there with her during that time. But Julie Belafonte was, and Vanoy and Tommy. And so when they would do the classes with her, they would tell the stories, and Miss Dunham would just love it. She'd love it, honey. That would be so much fun. And but no, Barrel House Blues was second, and it really came about. My working with Miss Dunham, with her setting the work on the company, came out of a night that I had spent the night there, and we had talked till maybe 3 a.m. and she said, I went to give her a kiss on the cheek. And because I knew I had to take a plane very soon. I mean, I had to get up at 5 to take a 7 o'clock plane because I was probably had a board meeting or something. And she would always tell me, Cleo, you don't have to really leave, do you? And I go, Miss Dunham, I really do. If I didn't have to, I certainly wouldn't. And I hated leaving. I would work in Hawaii for 10 years. Every time I left her, I would go from Denver, work in New York, go to East St. Louis, and then go on to Hawaii. So I had all these huge kind of shifts of my body and mind. I mean, as I was working. But I would say to her, you know, I've got to get back, but I will be back. And I wanted her to always know I would never just leave and never be back. And so the night I said I had to get back early. We talked maybe till 3, and I was going to sleep maybe for the next 2 hours. So I went to the bedroom, Kati's bedroom, and the thing she had said to me right before I left is that she said, "I'll see you in the next civilization." And I said, "What?" I knew she was depressed. I knew that. She was depressed about how our country had treated the Haitians, the Haitian boat people, and so on. And she watched CNN, you know, I mean, 24/7. So she read, and she was quite aware of what was going on in the world. And she felt like our country was going into a deep darkness, and she didn't see the light with what was going to shift it. So she said, "I will see you in the next civilization." I went in the next room and I said, "That didn't sound right. That didn't sound right." So I began to meditate and pray and so on, and try to visualize something different and understand what was going on. And at that point, I had a couple of moments of vision, and one was Harry Belafonte, and the other one was Charlie Reinhardt. And then Janelle was taking me to the airport, and I said, "Janelle, I'm really concerned about Miss Dunham more than I've ever been." And she said she would see me in the next civilization. And I said, "I think that doesn't sound right to me. Like, I think she will will herself not here tomorrow." I mean, that's how deep that was. And I said, but I've had a vision of people have to help. I mean, she can't be in this place of depression. She can't. She has too much more to give, you know. So Janelle said, yes, she's been very down and very depressed, and, you know, just about the funding, about her health, about the house, about workshops. I mean, we knew the range of the challenges that were going on. So I just said, well, I don't know, what can I do? What can I do? I kept asking myself, what can I do? And by the time I got into Denver, Tom picked me up, and I said, Tom, he said, well, how was it? And I said, Tom, I don't know. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good. And I said, and so I didn't really want to tell him I had a vision, because Tom was very logical. I mean, I didn't always tell him everything I was seeing and feeling. So he said, Cleo, did you know that Harry Belafonte is in town tonight? And I said, what? He said, Harry's in town. He's performing. And I said, well, I had to come back to Denver to go on a retreat with all of these kids so that, you know, we could talk about, they were doing drive-by shootings and all kinds of stuff. So I knew I couldn't be at the concert. I said, what do you mean he's at a concert? And I said, well, I had a vision about him about a couple of hours ago, that he was going to be one of the ones to help Miss Dunham. And he said, Cleo, I don't know about that anyway. So I got into town. I called hotels. Is Harry Belafonte at the hotel here? Is Harry over here? I finally found him at the Brown Palace. I said, Harry, this is Cleo Parker Robinson. I don't know if you know who I am, but I've just been with Miss Dunham, and you need to be helping. I said, I did. I knew it. And he said, oh, Cleo, you know, I have a concert tonight. Will you be coming? And I said, well, I really can't. And he said, what do you mean you can't come? I said, I just got in town, but but I did get by to the theater. I brought him a present. I said, pay attention to what I'm saying. Miss Dunham needs some real support. And he heard me. And then later, Charlie Reinhardt calls me and he says, Cleo, you know, we have a grant and we want you to have it at the American Dance Festival. And I said, what? And he said, you can work with any choreographer you want, any Black choreographer, and just say who you want and we'll fund everything. The choreographer, their expenses, all of that. We'll give a company fee. I was very depressed. I said, there's no choreographer I want to work with right now. I mean, that's not where I am. I said, I just got back from seeing Miss Dunham. And he said, oh, how is Catherine doing? I said, Charlie, I don't think well. I don't think so. And I didn't want to say too much.
Put all the business out, yeah.
I didn't want to say too much, but I said, she's not doing well. And he said, what? And I said, that's the only choreographer I would want to work with now. I mean, and he said, I'll call you back. Hung up. He hung up immediately. He hung up. And then he called her. And I get a call a few minutes after that from Miss Dunham. And Miss Dunham says, with a different energy, a different spirit, she says, Cleo, I've just talked to Charles. And I'm like, what? She called me directly. And she says, I just talked to Charles and we will be working together. I said, oh my God, what? I mean, a whole other demeanor, a whole other energy. And then she said, just call Julie. I get off the phone and I go, I'm talking to my office and going, Catherine Dunham just called me and she told me that we'll be working together. And then Charlie just called her and I said, that's who the vision I had. And I said, so Julie, who's Julie? I don't know who Julie is. I have no clue. And Harry had just been here with Julie. Julie was his customer, his wife and customer, but I'd never met her. I mean, and maybe years ago in New York I did, but she didn't know me. So
you didn't connect, yeah.
No, I didn't connect. So I called Janelle back. I said, Janelle, Miss Dunham just called me. She said, no, honey, she doesn't have your number. I said, Janelle, Miss Dunham called me. And she said, I don't know how that would happen. I said, I don't know either, but she called me. And I said, and she told me to call Julie. And I don't know who Julie is, but that's the next step. I have to call Julie. And so she said, I don't know who you're talking about, Julie. She said, well, she hasn't worked with Julie for 50 years. Julie Belafonte. I said, I don't know. Maybe you give me her number. I then called Julie. And Julie says, I just got a call from Miss Dunham. We will be working together. Done and done. Done and done. That's the way it happened. Wow. And most people don't know. But
well, I really appreciate it, especially since I brought up Mr. Hudlin, because like Julie and Harry Belafonte were you're bringing a lot of pieces into this story that has been coming together in my mind. And as people watch these shares, we'll get that story too.
Isn't that bad? So Julie and Miss Dunham came. Julie had her tights and leotards on. And Miss Dunham says, we have not worked together for 50 years. And it was like yesterday. And they began to teach churros. And then after that, she said, and Julie says, Cleo, I think nobody's ever done Bell House Blues except for Miss Dunham and maybe one other dancer, but she didn't say who it was. She said, but nobody, Miss Dunham would never let anybody do Bell House Blues. She said, I think that she needs to set it on your company. So she then set Bell House Blues on the company. And I wasn't in the rehearsal. I set up the rehearsals, but I wasn't in the rehearsal. I was helping to teach the dancers what she was doing. And the more that she was doing it, I was like, wait just a minute. I want to do that. I want to be in the audition. And when I began to come into the rehearsal, and I had all these beautiful dancers that definitely wanted to be in Bell House Blues, right? And she chose Marcy Freeman, who was my rehearsal director and dancer in my company for 38 years. Yeah, she chose Marcy to be the pee-pee girl, the Lucille Ellison's part. But she never made a commitment to the women. So when she finished, I said, so Ms. Dunham, which woman did you choose? And she said, we'll talk about that. So she never chose a woman. She never chose anybody for her part, right? So I'm thinking, well, I want you to see me do it. So I did it. And she said, sister, she said, you know what? I don't think you've ever had hard times. I said, Miss Dunham, you don't know me. I have had hard times. So I had to tell, she said, you know, a little bit like the front that we all put on in our lives, that we all got it together.
Mm-hmm.
She was like, no, you have to show me you've had some hard times. And then it wasn't about the steps. It was about, can you be that character? And I said, well, I want you to know, I know about that as well. So then she said, okay, sister, you know, like that. And she called me sister. She said she was funny, but she'd never seen me perform it until I was with Jamal at Jacob's Pillow. And I remember this rehearsal was wild. We get out, we get in, and no, Vanoy was there. Vanoy was coaching me because then he would dance with me, and he'd go, I was Miss Dunham's partner, so let me tell you what you have to do. So Vanoy was wonderful, but Theo had been coaching us with Julie. So Julie was there, Theo, everybody, and Harry and Danny Glover and everybody. It was wonderful. Jacob's Pillow 20 years ago. See, it was 20 years ago. So anyway, so here I am, and I go to the tech, and I tell the tech, well, there's one stool. I'm in the center stage, off center, a little bit left. And so I said, but the chairs that you have over on the side, there are no chairs in this piece, just one stool. So the technical person said, well, no, the chairs have to stay there. I said, no, they have to go. And he said, no. I said, well, why are they there? And he said, well, that's where Miss Dunham and Julie will be sitting. I said, while I'm dancing, while I'm doing it, while I'm doing Bell House Blues. And Miss Dunham had never seen me perform it. And I'm like, oh, heck no. Oh, no, that is not going to happen. Oh, yes, it happened. Miss Dunham was sitting right there while they're filming, and I'm dancing it, and I'm thinking, oh, Lord. So when I got through performing it, she said, and I'm waiting for my notes, right? And she says, dear, it was better than I ever did it, and better than I've ever imagined it. And I was like, well, she said, however, there was this one thing, and I just knew I was waiting for the however. She said, the dress wasn't purple, it was blue. I said, Miss Dunham, I went to East St. Louis. I took my entire company. I took my costumer. We know that dress. We designed everything accordingly to what Mr. Pratt had created for her. And she said, oh, darling, she said, you know what? I think the sun had bleached it and it's now purple, but it was blue. Keep it. I said, okay. And I did. But to keep it the way it was, but she also was a little more flexible than many others that are keeping the legacy alive, because she was still, she was in the life of what it all is. Same way with Choros and Rita Passage and many of the other pieces that we were able to do. Then I did Southland. That was deep. About the lynchings in the South. That was
Southland.
That was challenging. We did that one. But doing Bar House Blues was so much fun, because she would show me how to shimmy. She'd be like, okay, sister, come on, let me show you. She'd sit and shimmy in her chair. And then she told me, you have to chew gum. I said, chew gum in the piece, because that's not in the lab notation, so all those fun things. Anyway, it's been a wonderful journey, right?
Thank you. I've been wanting to know the story of this since the first time I found a picture of you in the costume. I'm like, Cleo knows this? I need to talk to her about this when I get home. And I love that. There's something in it for me in terms of opening cultural expression and getting to be a little more sexier, that it started blue. And then when it's set on you, after 8 people critique you and the master watches you do it on stage, Wow. That's like Super Bowl level pressure. But
That's,
anyway.
oh yeah. I was like, oh Lord have mercy. Oh gosh. And she never told, and Julie. Oh, Julie was just as tough as Miss Dunham, because Julie watched her do it those years she was in the company, and knew that, and Vanoy saw me do it. And the night that Miss Dunham passed, we were in the hotel, and I was with Vanoy, and he said, let me do Barrel House Blues with you. And he did it the night of our passing. And so we were trying to be in her beautiful spirit and her joy. And so I got to do it, not on stage with Vanoy, but with him.
In soul, on soul. Oh my goodness.
Her spirit is, she loved choros. We did it at the Kennedy Center, and Mary Christine was with us. And I sat next to Harry during that night. And see, when I say it's fate, I had named my brother Harry, Belafonte, when he was 6 years younger than me. And so when I was 6, I already knew about Belafonte. I named my brother Belafonte, so that all of this journey with Harry Belafonte and Julie and all of that. And then Julie and I became best friends, really, really. We were with her son in New York last month with David. And now she's back in California. She's not in New York right now. But what Julie shared about Miss Dunham and Southland was how we were able to recreate that. And then the whole journey of that. But that was the piece when I did Barrel House Blues at Jacob's Pillow, and we had the PBS and NPR and everybody there. And they were saying to her, you're 90. Why did it take this long for you to be invited to Jacob's Pillow? And she said, I think you know the answer to that. Oh God, can you believe it? And I was
it hadn't even occurred to me that
90. Yeah. So then they said, is there anything? And I was sitting next to Donald McHale, because we were doing Donnie's work, and we're keeping Mr. McHale's work and Miss Dunham's work. And it's so hard without her. It's so hard. It's so hard. But when Donnie was sitting there, and the interviewer said, is there anything that you haven't done in your life that you wish you could have done, or you would love to see done? And she said, well, I've done everything. It was really like, was there anything else to do? But she said, I wish Southland could have been done, and I would love to see Southland done. And she said, Cleo, and I'm looking at her like, Southland had never been done in our country? And so she gives us that directive right then. So I know then that that's what her wish was, to do Southland, and that we had to make it happen, because it was never, you can't do it, but we had so many odds against us working. So it was such a difficult piece. And emotionally, I had to do a lynching on stage. I had to do an actual lynching. And then I had to talk to the dancer that, Rich, the dancer who had done that role, had to tell me everything about the lynching that took place, and how he had gotten the part. And so bringing my dancers together with the dancers that were still alive, but we were not able to get with, I think Lucille Ellis had already passed. Jackie, Jackie Goldman was living in Rome and in Paris, and I wasn't able to bring her. And there were challenges there. So we, reconstructing without the artist that did it, you're reading everything, you're taking every scrap of anything that the universe is bringing you, and you're working at it. And because that was the one that I had to do without Miss Dunham's physical presence, but with her total spiritual presence. That was very different. So yesterday I talked about how we had premiered it in Florida, and we had premiered it there. And every freshman was required to see it and write about it. And we had, and this is in the entire university, the young people that spoke about it spoke about they were aware of lynchings in their families. And this was only maybe 8 years ago. And that's amazing that we have that dark history in our history, and that Southland brought it to forefront that there's still a tremendous amount of racial violence. And so I think that I was interested in that part of her courage.
Thank you for sharing that profound story, but it's so,
And yet, you know, you don't have all the dollars for the resources for the sets and the costumes and I don't know how they did it.
I don't know how they did it.
I don't know how they did it.
I you know, even beyond money and resources, like just how she got all that done. You know, do you could you send us the organizer, the time management system? Because I don't even understand how you fit it all in.
And run the company and have a school in New York and be on Broadway,
be a mom and be a wife and
that was amazing. And to be so grounded when you're with her. I mean, because usually when some people are like that, they're just all over the place, which I began to do that. I mean, I was producing like that in different theaters and working with, I worked with the impresario that she worked with. I worked with Nat Merrill of the Met, who produced Aida. And when he came to Denver to open our first opera house in the round in the country, in the world, it was the first opera house in the round. And so when they brought him from the Met to Denver, and he moved from New York to Denver, he then asked me to have dinner. And I was like, dinner? Okay, Tom Robinson, you're going with me to dinner with this opera producer. And we went to dinner, and Nat said, and his wife, Louise, she was a pianist and the rehearsal director. But he said, Cleo, I've invited you to dinner for one thing. I want you to choreograph Aida and direct it. And I said, Aida with the opera? So he said, yes. I said, I'm not even sure I like opera. Are you kidding? I don't even know. I don't know that I even like it. I mean, I will go, and there's certain operas that I love, but I don't go to the opera. That's not what I do. No, I don't even have time. But he said, well, there's only one answer, and it is yes, because I worked with Catherine Dunham, and she produced it with me at the Met, and you're the only one. And I said, what? So I went back to Miss Dunham, and I said, Miss Dunham, I am working with Nat Merrill to produce the Aida, and I want to know, how did you do it? Tell me about the Indigo people, because they were an African tribe that I wasn't aware of, because that's the uniqueness of that. And she would tell me, oh, darling, this is what we did, and blah, blah, blah. And she said, please tell Nat hello for me. So to be able to work with people who had a vision that came from her, that then I inherited, was just a great, unbelievable. So anyway, when I watch Aida now, the production that we did, it was phenomenal. And it was her spirit that carried us. It was, I had hundreds of people in the cast, hundreds. and then I prayed on it, because it had to be extraordinary. So I went to the Met, and I used all the costumes and the everything I could. I mean, Nat gave me access to everything I needed. He said, this is what Miss Dunham had, and this is what you'll have. And I'm like, what? I mean, what kind of gift is that? I mean, that's the gift. When I speak about it, that's the gift in the universe. That is just in a blessed plan, not something. It's a divine plan. It's
right.
not like
Ambition can't make that happen.
No. And that's why I had no idea what to do with it, because I knew it had to be spectacular. There was only a certain amount of photographs and information. I didn't want to do it just like Miss Dunham, but I wanted to know what she did and what Nat Merrill really saw, the vision for it. But so we opened up for the museum, the Ramses exhibit, and it's so many things happened as a result of those kinds of moments. So anyway, I'd like for the archives to be available to some of the students and others, because then they see that we never could be whatever Miss Dunham was, and everybody has their own journey, but we've been inspired by her. And the inspiration goes beyond our generation. The inspiration has to be there.
I'll just carry our little seed pod.
Exactly.
Woo. So, wow. Oh gosh. You know, we've been talking over an hour, so I'm going to give you back some time.
Wait, how do we do that?
I just got to listen. I got to listen. Woo. And I know I want to visit more again on Miss Dunham, but I also would love to visit and learn more about Donald McHale. Because when I was a kid and coming to junior company, y'all, it was really, really hard. Cleo is as hard as Dunham. Just put it out there. You said it was like, darling, Donald McHale is here this week, and right. It was hard. And I'm not even from Denver. I'm from Boulder, and I'm like, who's Donald McHale? But as I grow up and I talk to dancers, and every time I hear his name now, I'm like, I studied Donald McHale.
Yeah, I studied McHale.
Yeah, learn more.
No, I was able to bring them together. I love that. Some of my joy was that people would support me in Denver. I mean, just like you all as students who would support it. If I didn't get the support, it never could have happened. But people believed that we were doing something that was important, significant. And so when I bring Miss Dunham, then I wanted to bring Mr. McHale so that they'd be together. And, you know, if I brought Miss Dunham to the ADF or to Jacob's Pillow, then I wanted Tally to be there so that people could have these experiences that students could share. And they were profound, profound. And when you share that with me, then I remember, yes, these were moments that I didn't just have, but the students were able to have, and the parents and the community, and they blessed us. Donnie was unbelievable. We have 13, maybe 15 of his works. That is really, and we just finished performing Crossing the Rubicon and Jacob's Pillow like a month ago. And it almost killed them. Oh my God, it's so difficult. It was the last work that he created before he passed. So we have to talk about those He was there at 84, choreographing those in his wheelchair, and he was beyond his time. It was really something. So we'll talk about that. There'll be a series.
Thank you so much.
And I want to come and see what you're doing. I'm so proud of what you're doing there.
Thank you, ma'am. We will work on it. And well, what's coming up for CPRD? I know there's got to be that gorgeous Christmas show.
Oh yeah,
holiday show.
We just worked with the New Orleans Jazz Orchestra. We just brought them from New Orleans. Adonis Rose, he composed a piece that I created with my wonderful staff, Winifred and Chloe, and I brought in Millicent Johnny out of New Orleans. And I created a piece about the burning of the churches in Louisiana called Sacred Spaces. And we're going to tour it. We're taking it around the country with the orchestra. 25 musicians. Yeah, yeah. We brought them to Denver from New Orleans, and we opened it at the Opera House 4 weeks ago. It was really something. And now we're going to tour it. And Monday we'll be in Cape Fear, producing in North Carolina a series of classes and concerts and rehearsals and so on. And then I'll come back and do Granny. And then we'll go on into Houston. And then we'll be at the International Association of Blacks in Toronto, because 2 years we haven't been able to be there. So we'll do that. And then hopefully we'll come back and I'll be with the symphony, and we'll have a 50th year celebration with the symphony orchestra in Denver at the Opera House where I did Aida. And then we'll hopefully break ground on our new building. Lenny, pray for us. You'll have to see it.
It's gonna come.
You have to see it. A new theater that's really designed around Alvin Ailey's theater and studios and so on. So our community's been very, very focused and really, really amazing. It'll be a destination.
Well, and you are, thank you, you make Denver a destination, and this legacy of work, you speak volumes to, you don't have to do it in New York.
No.
They
we have
need
to do it everywhere.
Yeah, we need you. Don't think as an artist, as a visionary, you need to have a dance company in New York. They need you in Georgia, Nebraska, wherever you find yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
You can shine the light right there and create it.
But New York has been the mother.
New York is New York. Yeah.
Mother, yeah. It is the marketplace. It's the marketplace, no doubt. But there are other markets and little villages that feed us, and what a blessing that is. And you're a blessing, honey. Thank you for such a joyous morning.
Love you, Mama Cleo.
Love you now.
Oh, I'm so happy.
And come and see us in Denver. Come to Granny. I will be dancing at 31 years. Lordy, Lordy. I'm like 31 years, honey.
You did. You had to grow into the role.
You're a sweetheart. Love you, sweetie. Have a blessed day.
Love you too.
All right. Take care.
Bye.